We're going to update you on the NFL coaching carousel. There's the carousel. Those little horsies. I don't have any music to go with it, though. But it's been a fast and furious 48 hours in regards to the NFL coaching carousel. We also had a GM firing because apparently hell froze over in Jacksonville on Thursday, and not because it's not, and it's not just because it snowed. Because yes, it was cold enough in Jacksonville on Thursday that it did snow. General manager, and I would say the execrable general manager of former execrable general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trent Baalke, was fired. And after that, we had a slew of hirings. So let's go over the list right now. Aaron Glenn, former Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, now head coach of my New York Jets.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes.
The New England Patriots, the New York Jets, and University of Southern California, the Trojans. Now head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
We also had late last night, actually before late last night, former offensive coordinator of the Houston Texans, Bobby Slowick, was relieved of his duty.
Bring him to Seattle, please.
No. Bring him to Come on. No. And late last night, Brian Schottenheimer is now the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, my God.
Let's talk about these hires.
Did you see the quote from Jerry Jones?
Oh, God.
He said, he ain't Brian no more.
No. You gotta say it in your Jerry Jones voice.
Oh, yeah. He ain't Brian no more. He's now known as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Pretty sure Brian is still his legal name, Jerry.
He's now known as head coach.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my. But let's do a full rewind talk about these hires. We talked about Ben Johnson going to the Bears on our last episode when I introduced this segment. But now we've had hirings. The only vacancy that's currently open is the New Orleans Saints, curiously enough. So I'm going to do a long form video later this weekend to give you my thoughts about the Aaron Glenn hiring. I thought, just to sum it up, I think it's a good hiring, but he's got to knock the offensive coordinator out of the park. Hey, Bobby Slowick's available. And the GM still needs to be hired. It's down to 3 names from what I understand. So, but I'll do a long form interview about that.
Oh, I got to tune into that.
Yeah, you do. And by long form, I mean like 10, 15 minutes, because I don't know how my voice is going to give out beforehand because of the sinus condition. But let's talk about these hirings, Dustin. What are your initial thoughts about, first off, about the New York Jets hiring Aaron Glenn? What are your initial thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, he was one of the hottest commodities, and this is what happens now. The Lions, unfortunately, have not won a title, but they've been, as part of this turnaround, their whole staff has been targeted, and I feel better. A little bit of a hot take on this one, but I feel that Aaron Glenn will do better with the Jets than Ben Johnson will do with the Bears. I can't really say why. I just feel it. It's just a feeling I have. I don't know. Everybody saw that Bears clip of, Ben Johnson saying, I really like beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. And he kind of smiled. And somebody under the comments said, why is this giving me Adam Gase vibes? And I can't shake that. I think he's going to do better than Adam Gase. And I think the Bears have better tools and better pieces, but we'll have to see how it translates. But I think Aaron Glenn has defensive pieces on the Jets right now. This is a hire they had to make. They had to get a defensive based guy because that defense The window is closing on that defense. He's got to strike while the iron is hot. But I think this is a good hire. They've got to get a decent GM in for the Jets. I don't know the names that it's been barreled down to, but overall, I think this is a good hire. I thought there was a chance that Aaron Glenn might go to the Saints. But he ends up on the Jets, and I think this is probably one of the better hires that they could have done. I just have a good feeling about it, and I can't really articulate why, other than Aaron Glenn has shown what he can do, even with a injury-prone defense in Detroit this season. With that Jets defense, I'm looking forward to see if he can turn it around.
Yeah, they don't have to change much in terms of personnel. He runs a 4-3 base. The Jets ran a 4-3 base last year. So the three candidates in waiting for the GM job are Lance Newmark, who is currently the assistant general manager in Washington and was pretty much was a lifer in Detroit before that as a scout, as an assistant to the GM, all that stuff. The other two are Denver assistant general manager Darren. Is it Mugi or Muji? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. And Cincinnati Bengals personnel executive Trey Brown. So those are the three names that are out there. And I guess Aaron Glenn has a previous working relationship with Newmark because of his time in Detroit. So
yeah, okay.
We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, I'll give you a skinny little preview of what I have to say about Aaron Glenn. He doesn't unlike Robert Saleh, he doesn't walk into a rebuild situation.
Yeah,
he just needs to do some retooling here and there. He's got some there's some free agents that they got to think about bringing back. DJ Reed is one of them. Morgan Moses is another. Tyron Smith, excuse me. Although they can yeet him into the sun for his poor play last year. It's Olu Fashanu season, baby. Sorry, Olu Fashanu. But yeah, he's got some decisions to make. And we'll see if he can coexist with Aaron Rodgers if he decides to bring in Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. So that's a big question. That's going to be the big question. The second hiring, this was announced yesterday morning, was Pete Carroll, formerly of your Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah,
is now the head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I gotta say this, and Kevin, and we had two comments in the comment section. First from Grit in the Gridiron says, "I feel bad for Pete. What does he have to look forward to? No quarterback, no team." And Kevin Wilson saying, "What is Pete going to do about the quarterback situation in Vegas? There are none in sight right now."
Yeah.
And I was listening to our guys, Levac and Gaz, yesterday. And Levac's a big Raiders fan. Been a Raiders fan for years. He said, and Gaz asked him if Pete Carroll was going to run it back with. He said, "Would it be okay if Pete Carroll run it back with Russell Wilson?" And Levac just froze, and he's like, "If he does that, I'm going to jump out this first story window of this building." He's not because what do you do? What does Pete Carroll do? Because I don't want to say the cupboard's empty with the Raiders,
but it's pretty bare. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And Grid on the Gridiron says, I feel so sad. I feel sad for Pete. What does he have to look forward to? No QB, no team. And this is the thing. On an episode of Seahawks Sessions, I said to Mr. Smooth, my esteemed co-host on that program, and we'll have to get Kevin back on, especially to discuss we haven't had a show yet because I think we're kind of waiting to see who the OC is in Seattle so we can talk about that hire. But I'm going to want to talk about this too in long form over there. But I said there are rumors Pete's going to interview for the Raiders job, and I hope he doesn't take it because I felt the same way. They don't have anything. But also, if anyone could turn around the culture of the Raiders, I think it could be Pete Carroll, as long as he could get it, as long as the players buy into his style and his endless energy and always compete mantra. Maybe he can do something like he did with the Seahawks and build through the draft. But you also, not to get into it, but Pete Carroll turned 74 years old in September, I think. So how long does he have to build this team? How long, if anybody, Pete is a young 74, if that makes sense. He still has
Yeah,
energy.
he's got more energy than both of us combined at the
Yeah.
ages where we are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But I just feel like, I don't know, Pete. You got to get a QB, and Staniel Smooth, ever watching. He's everywhere. He texted me. He said, "Hear me out. Geno gets traded to the Raiders. If that happens, that's not." Pete Carroll could use him as a bridge quarterback. Now, there are no indications from Mike McDonald or John Schneider that they want to get rid of Geno Smith as the quarterback. And but we'll see. We'll see what kind of relationship John Schneider and Pete Carroll still have. And what I will be watching as a Seahawk fan, a lot of people are laying a lot of the personnel mistakes that were made in recent drafts at Pete Carroll because he had final say over John Schneider. It'll be interesting to compare the two side by side because one would have to assume Pete Carroll's going to have a similar say in Las Vegas. I don't think he would have taken this job if he didn't have at least some control over personnel decisions. So
yeah,
it's up to Pete to build this back, but I just don't know how long he has. And the Raiders, they're a while away. But yeah, it sounds like we got to get an episode of Seahawks Sessions together once the OC is hired because there's some
right.
things to talk about here.
So a couple of things. I looked at Spot Track. He has 1 year remaining. Geno Smith, I'm talking about here. He
Yep.
has 1 year remaining on his contract with the Seahawks at a cap hit of $44.5 million. And the Raiders have the number 6 pick in this year's draft. So I'm kind of curious to see if they'll make that move, for how aggressive their GM will be.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember who the new GM's name is.
Yeah, I can't. Hold on. We're doing some real-time
research. Here we go.
Real-time research, folks. And yeah, like I said, Kevin.
John Spytek.
Okay. Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what kind of moves he makes. Do you move up in the draft and pick yourself a Cam Ward or Shador Sanders or insert quarterback's name here? Do you trade down to get do you trade down in the second round to get like a Kyle McCord or insert name here? So,
yeah.
But also there's that question: do you run it back with Geno Smith and make him a bridge quarterback for a year in Las Vegas, or do you just keep going with Aiden McConnell and Gardner Minshew for a year, and maybe draft a quarterback and see what happens from there?
Yeah, and as you mentioned that Gaz asked Levesque about it. I think a lot of people's first thought were okay, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are going to get back together. I do not see that happening. The way that their relationship ended in Seattle was pretty much, ownership sided with Pete. Russ was pushing for more control if everything is to be believed, and they ultimately went with Pete Carroll, and we saw what Pete Carroll was able to do with Geno Smith. We thought that it was going to be a flaming mess, and it was not. So Russell Wilson did show up to a farewell dinner for Pete Carroll in Seattle after he was let go as the coach. So I think some things have been mended, but I do not see a universe where this happens, especially because of the way Russ's play tailed off at the end of the season for the Steelers. I think it hurt his value a little bit, and I just don't think Pete decides to bring him back down to Vegas because, especially, do they even have an offensive line? Like, could they protect an older Russell Wilson? I don't see it.
Yeah. Playmaker checking in, saying no cred bros. What's up? Just dropping in real quick while working. Thanks, man. Thanks for appreciate you dropping by. Our next. Okay, so Thursday, we'll switch over to Jacksonville.
Okay.
So they had gone through a myriad of coaching candidates. They interviewed Robert Saleh. They interviewed a bunch of candidates. Nobody wanted the job. By the way, Robert Saleh going back to San Francisco. He's going to run it back with the 49ers as their defensive coordinator. So good luck to you, Coach Saleh. Which is funny. So Trent Baalke gets fired on Thursday. Because we talked about this on Corner Booth. Like coaches are coming in, they're getting interviews. Nobody wants to work with Trent Baalke. And I think Shad Khan kind of figured out quickly. Nobody's getting hired. Nobody wants the job. And he gets fired. Now, interestingly enough, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in an effort to maintain the services of one Liam Coen, their offensive coordinator, who did a phenomenal job last year.
Oh, yeah.
And after he was promoted when Dave Canales left for Carolina, did a tremendous job in unlocking the run game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with Bucky Irving being a 1,000-yard rusher in his rookie season. He was a candidate who was out there. Tampa Bay threw him a bunch of money. Said, we want you to stay. We don't want you to go. We're going to make you one of the highest paid coordinators in football. On Friday, apparently Tampa Bay was trying to get a hold of Liam Coen, and he had gone up north to Jacksonville to take the job as head coach reported to take the head coaching job in Jacksonville. What a whirlwind it's been for if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan over the last 48 hours.
The crazy thing is, and I heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I heard that essentially they brought him in and he turned it down, and then Trent Baalke gets fired, and then he's like, sure.
Okay.
Man.
So the common denominator was that the fact that Trent Baalke's not very good at his job.
Yeah.
Or he's just that unlikable of a person because he couldn't get the job done in San Francisco. Then he gets let go. Jacksonville brings him in. Has that one season where they come back to win the AFC South, had that tremendous playoff victory against the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yes.
Losing the divisional. And ever since then, they've done nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that they gave the Chiefs all they could handle in that game. It was a great game, but that was their high point. But yeah, it's amazing. But I just find that funny that he basically said no, thank you, and then Trent Baalke gets fired, and he's like, all right, I'll come in. But I was, and I don't know how you feel about this, Ryan, because you obviously have a different relationship with him as head coach. I think this is a good hire. If I don't know how much credit goes to, I'm not familiar enough with the Bucs. I don't know how much credit goes to the Baker Mayfield sort of rebuild. But if he can do a similar thing with Trevor Lawrence down in Jacksonville, more power to it. I think this could be a decent hire, but I was silently rooting for Robert Saleh to take this job.
I was actually rooting for Robert Saleh to go to Detroit.
Okay.
I was rooting for him to go to Detroit because that's where he's from, Michigan. So it'd be kind of a homecoming for him. But I guess Kyle Shanahan got his mitts on him sooner and said, "Hey, bud, want to run it back into San Fran with me?"
Yeah, he'll rebuild that defense, and it's going to be a problem because San Francisco is going to be healthy again next year, and I don't know, we'll see, but I think that's a smart move by Saleh to kind of rebuild his image. I mean, he if he went to Dallas to be the head coach, I mean, it just, you could say there's a GM in Dallas that not a lot of people want to work with either.
It's true. All right, and then the last hiring, I guess you could say that the last hiring, late last night, Adam Schefter broke the news. Brian Schottenheimer, son of legendary NFL coach Marty Schottenheimer, who was the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys last year, is now going to run the ship in Dallas. If you're a Cowboys fan, you've got to have mixed feelings about this. You've got to have seriously mixed feelings about this because you're basically just running it back with Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
No relation.
Yeah, you got rid of Mike McCarthy to bring in Mike McCarthy light, and no disrespect to Brian Schottenheimer, but he is not his father, and also he He has been the offensive coordinator for both our teams, and I do not recall the offense being a machine under Brian Schottenheimer in his tenure with the Seattle Seahawks. I don't remember enough about his Jets run offenses.
I do.
All
I do.
right.
He likes to run the ball.
He does like to run the ball.
He had two very good running backs in Thomas Jones and Sean Green.
Mhm.
And if this is an indication of anything, Dallas is 12th in the draft order. And there is a running back from Boise State who had
Yes.
a tremendous season, Ashton Jeanty. I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to try to trade up and get him and make them, and he's going to be their premier running back. This is the running back they've been missing since, I could say, arguably Emmitt Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he had those brilliant few seasons with Ezekiel Elliott. You put him the ball until he could run no more. But you got a guy in Ashton Jeanty who's an absolute steamroller of a running back. And if he could be your bell cow running back and employ that running game with him in the backfield, Dallas could be a surprising team next year. And they could run it back with the NFC East. But here's the thing. And I'm going to credit Snowman for saying this. The Eagles have passed them by. The Commanders have passed them by. The Giants are a couple players away of passing the Cowboys by.
Wow.
If you're Jerry Jones, what do you do?
Yeah.
If you're in last place next year, what do you do?
Yeah. And I think that's a very smart take because I don't know that the Giants are a couple players from passing them by, but Dallas, for a long time, everybody said, oh, Cowboys, one of the best offensive lines in football. That offensive line is aging. You've got your money tied up into Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, and that's basically it. So how are you going to pay? Did they extend Parsons? Did they extend Parsons? I can't remember.
Not yet. No, they did not. They extended CeeDee Lamb. They extended Dak Prescott for that ridiculous contract that he's held to, and he was hurt from week 8. He was out since week 8. He's been out since week 8.
Yeah.
And who knows what they're gonna do with him if he's gonna be the quarterback of the team next year.
Yeah. It's a team in disarray, and social media is a vacuum, but a lot of comments under this post were not happy about this, but no. I think I think it's because none of the big names want to work with Jerry Jones because they know they'll have no control over what the team does. And the other thing is, though, let's give Brian a chance. Let's see what he can do. But I think your idea of having them go get Austin Jeanty, I think, is a smart thing because Jerry's got to make a splash somehow because they missed out on Derrick Henry. Their fate could have been completely different if they had Derrick Henry in the backfield because Cooper Rush can hand off the ball, So I think that would be the ticket to go, especially with he's not his father, but he does have, you are right, he does like to run the ball like his father did. So yeah. Ashton Jeanty, my apologies, would be a good pick that makes sense for them.
Yeah, and there are some notable free agents in free agency at running back. A couple of them that could come to mind. Aaron Jones is a free agent. Najee Harris is a free agent. Nick Chubb is a free agent.
Yeah, Nick Chubb. Yeah, wow.
There's some notable names out there. J.K. Dobbins, he'd be a good bridge running back, a nice 1-2 combination. So there are plenty of running backs to sign cheaply while you bring in Ashton Jeanty and get him used to the ebbs and flows of the NFL. But I think if Dallas is smart, if Jerry Jones is smart, and there are some questions these days. There's some questions these days. I think they're going. I think they're going to go over the running back because I think like you said, Dustin, you are a running back stan. You are a big fan of the bell cow running back, as am I. But you're a bigger fan of the bell cow running back. You've seen your fair share of running backs in Seattle. Ricky Waters, Marshawn Lynch, Sean Alexander. You're a big fan. You're a big running back. You're a running back stan.
Oh yeah.
Like you have sung the praises of Saquon Barkley and other running backs this year. Derrick Henry. to be an example. So the running game has never really gone away, and I think you're going to see more teams run it back, like kind of do a throwback with the running back position.
Mm-hmm.
But we got that is our NFL coaching carousel update. Where is that? There it is.
That's a beautiful element.
It is. We didn't get to Bobby Slowick, but we'll touch it. We'll talk about him more on Tuesday. Because I don't know what the deal was with him getting fired, but
that shocked me.
That was incredible. And Aaron Glenn, if you know what's good for you, bring that boy in for an interview.
No, bring him to Seattle, Mac.
No, you shut your mouth. Seattle. You shut your mouth right now.
But
all right. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm still shocked that it happened. I couldn't believe it. That one, when I saw that go across the bottom line on the 4-letter network, I was watching like a college basketball game or something. And when I saw that go across, I did an audible to no one in my house. I went, whoa.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
And he sent me that little thing on that little Instagram post.
Yeah.
About the Jets, how Aaron Glenn was in 1994 when he was drafted. Pete Carroll was his head coach.
Yeah.
And then this season, Aaron Glenn's coaching, and Aaron Glenn's the head coach of the New York Jets, and Pete Carroll is the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. By the way, they do not play each other this year.
Yeah.
They do not play each other in 2025, which is a shame. So it would be kind of fun to see if that chess match going on.